Allora, essendo che non ho molto tempo, acceleriamo la cosa, non teniamoci 25 secondi e andiamo. Sentiamo femmine cosa dire, da dire. Questo è il continuamento dell'episodio 862 e siamo corte con Purina che abbiamo scoperto che non è un vero arco. L'assistenza degli altri fatui femmine portano.
Is that the first prophecy slate?
L'hanno trovato.
Huh. So the knave privately arranged for Fremine to try and find the missing slate.
I looked everywhere and finally found it at the bottom of the sea. It took me a long time to get around some dangerous stretches of water.
Meno male che non era proprio nell'acqua primordiale.
But has the trial already concluded? Then doesn't that mean I've come too late? Oh no. Father will be disappointed in me.
Non preoccuparti, il mistero non è ancora risolto. Non è ancora troppo tardi per avere un tuo momento di gloria. No. Il mistero non è stato ancora risolto, non preoccuparti.
Thank you for your hard work, Mr. Fremine. Please allow me to review the record left on the slate.
Ma quindi essendo un drago, non sa lui che lui è un drago? Di solito i draghi sono gli accompagnatori, cioè lui è come Miko e la Raid è Miko e Miko, vabbè, Miko non è un drago, ma Miko è quella che aiuta la Raid.
Traveler, I believe that you have already seen the other existing slates, and would like you to come here and confirm their contents.
E Furina dove è finito?
Huh? So what do you see? What is it?
Ma che l'arco nido precedente abbia sprigionato il suo potere divino, trasformando gli oceani in esseri umani. Ah, mi sembrava, lo stavo dicendo prima. Quindi sono tutti oceani di qua a Fontaine?
I believe I have now made sense of the Hydro Archon's crime. It has to do with Fontaine's lost history.
Ah, quindi in realtà sono tutti...
Huh? Isn't the Hydro Archon just guilty of deceiving her people? Oh, wait, no, that's Farina, and we've already proven that she's not the Hydro Archon. So when you say Hydro Archon, do you mean the real Hydro Archon we've been kind of talking about?
In truth, everything that you've encountered in Fontaine up until this point can be traced back to the contents of these stone slates.
Mm.
However, I'm uncertain as to how much sense they currently make to you.
Un legame per quanto ritratto nelle tavolette di eventi accaduti, davvero.
Okay, let's try to recall the contents of the other 3 stone slates. Paimon will do her best to help you remember.
Vediamo un po' cosa succede. Ah, sezione le descrizioni per estrapolare informazioni chiave. Puoi scegliere scene legate al contenuto. Mentre il processo, il livello dell'acqua, ora esaminato le tavolette, la verità è arrivata. Eventi reali legati alle profezie.
The first stone slate describes what you just said. It seems to show the previous Hydro Archon using her divine power, and then the Oceanids turn into humans.
Huh.
Does that mean that Fontainians are transformed Oceanids? Oh, Paimon wasn't expecting that. But if Oceanids can turn into humans, then perhaps this process can be reversed as well.
Sì, sarà qua primordiale.
The second stone slate shows Celestia floating in the sky, and the Hydro Archon and her people worshipping it together. But the heavens still brought judgment down upon them. This must be the point when the Hydro Archon and the Fontainians were branded with their original sin. Does this mean that the original sin and the Hydro Archon sin are the same thing? The third slate shows the Hydro Archon sinking into the sea surrounded by many people. That reminds Paimon, didn't we also watch that happen to someone else?
Oh, già visto citare qualcun altro.
Well, the fourth slate is the prophecy the Fontainians have been talking about. people dissolving into the sea, the Hydro Archon crying on her throne, and so on. We didn't believe that such a crazy disaster could happen at first, did we? But after that incident, it was just a question of when and not if.
L'arcon che procede a usare potere di meno per trasformarci. L'arco indaco per ora l'ha condannato. Yes.
That doesn't sound quite...
Scusa. Adesso è sigillata la rapportita e di recente in mare, quasi fuoriuscita. No. Per questo.
We know from the case of the serial disappearances of young women that Fontanians can be dissolved in primordial seawater. And the first stone slate tells us that long ago, the Hydro Archon used her power to turn Oceanids into humans. This might be the reason that Fontanians can dissolve.
Questo qui è quello lì dei celesti. Brutto. Del peccato originale. No. Non lo so. Non lo
That doesn't sound...
Questo?
That doesn't...
No. Allora è quello di Neuvillette?
That doesn't...
No. Questo di... Non è questo.
Perhaps what is about to take place has all happened before. The true sin of the Hydro Archon that Neuvillette mentioned, and the original sin cast down on the people of Fontaine by Celestia, as recorded on the stone slates.
Mi dispiace per Furina, quello. Circondata da molte persone. Ha dovuto. Questo? No. Scusate ma ho freddo. Quindi sto sparando.
It's not as simple as falling into the sea. When Navia fell into the sea, her consciousness was subjected to judgment. The stone slates show the people gathered around the Hydro Archon in the sea. Could that be alluding to the same thing?
Quindi questo qua è questo? No.
The prophecy from the stone slates found its way into society, but not many people believed it at first. The fortress of Meropide was nearly flooded with primordial seawater, which we know can cause Fontanians to dissolve. It seems increasingly likely that the prophecy may come true. If we hadn't dealt with it in time, things could have gone very badly.
Ok.
They'll dissolve into the primordial sea but won't cease to exist. Their essence will flow in the seawater, converge, and take the form of an Oceanid.
Ah.
The Hydro Archon was sentenced to death in court, shocking everyone present. Perhaps this means that her sin was actually Fontaine's original sin. Navia fell into the water inside those ruins, and she nearly dissolved. She was surrounded by the people of Poisson in a court within her consciousness, and was forced to take part in a trial meant to make her stay. The eruption of the primordial sea at the fortress of Meropide was the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass no matter what. The stone slate's contents can all be verified by recent events. If we combine what we know together, loads of truths should come to light.
Verifica completata. E c'è qualcosa? Poi comincia a mangiare. Ma non so neanche io. Ce ne sono tanti di quegli screenshot, poi devo cancellarli.
Huh? Oh, Paimon gets it now! So that's how you can make sense of it!
Attenzione.
But then it feels like we're going to have to share some truly shocking revelations.
Let's hear them.
E un'altra volta dice che gli abitanti di Fontaine non sono veri umani.
Incredible. Linny, did you hear that?
We're not real humans.
All Fontainians were originally created by the late previous Hydro Archon, with Oceanids as their basis.
Mm.
The evidence for that can be found in how only Fontainians could dissolve in primordial seawater, and how all the girls Vacher dissolved were also turned into Oceanids. Oh, and according to Navia, when she was about to get dissolved, she also saw everyone gathered around for a trial, all of them in the shape of Oceanids.
Beh, ha senso.
Indeed.
Seconda tavoletta dice che il crimine dell'Archon di Hydro è stato quello di creare gli abitanti di Fontaine partendo dall'oceano.
Yeah, and it follows from the
Yes.
content of the first slate that she probably anchored Celestia by
Poi
creating
rimette.
humans without prior permission. That could also explain why the Oratrice judged the Hydro Archon to be guilty. It's to account for that ancient sin.
The Hydro Archon's true sin was creating us?
And yet, after many hundreds of years, the Hydro Archon's creations have turned around to try to judge the Archon within the Opera Epiclese. The twists of history are often the most unexpected of all.
Penso che per quanto riguarda la terza, penso che debba essere disposta dopo la quarta.
Yeah, isn't the image here just like when Navia fell into the sea? So wouldn't it be trying to show the image of the Hydro Archon also falling into the sea once the prophecy has been fulfilled in the fourth slate?
La quarta tavoletta mostra il compimento della profezia che è nel modo che tutti
In
conosciamo.
the end, the people will all be dissolved into the waters, and only the Hydro Archon will remain weeping on her throne. Only then will the sins of the people of Fontaine be washed away.
Ah.
Did Paimon get all that right?
Yes.
You've made some keen deductions. I must say, given how much you still don't know, it is impressive that you've already managed to connect so many pieces of the truth.
Il problema è che devono diventare tutti oceanici.
While you were able to decode all the information on the slates, they've also been etched with an additional layer of hidden information using a different power source. When we were at the ruins, I tried to decipher the hidden information recorded in the slates. But since we only had 3 slates at the time, I was unable to come to a full conclusion.
Nice pizzas.
Now that the slate collection is complete, I shall make another attempt to decipher the narrative recorded within. If everything goes well, we should finally be informed of the unadulterated truth.
Vediamo.
Well? Did you get it?
I believe I should share this truth not only with you, but with all the people of Fontaine as well. I will try to briefly summarize it for you. Your hypotheses regarding the origin of Fontainians and the sin of the Hydro Archon were both correct.
Attenzione.
In the Fontaine of old, the previous Hydro Archon sensed the yearning of her Oceanid familiars for life on land. The Oceanids were enamored with the beauty and romanticism of human beings, and wishing to have those experiences for themselves, expressed to the Hydro Archon their desire to become of a similar kind. However, even though water as an element is intricately linked with the power of life, the Hydro Archon, as one of the 7, did not possess the authority to create a new form of human life. Not one to give in, she eventually found a way to create permanent humanoid bodies for her familiars by appropriating the power of this planet's primordial sea. She poured primordial seawater into the Oceanids' blood vessels, creating humanoid mimics in the process. But if Fontainians were to ever come into direct contact with water from the primordial sea, the power within their bodies would escape these artificial restraints and return to the sea. As a result, their forms would collapse, and they would be reverted to their original forms as Oceanids. Of course, the Hydro Archon never received permission from the heavenly principles to create a new human race. And thus, the Hydro Archon and all of her creations came to shoulder the original sin of appropriating the power of the primordial sea. That is the true history of how the people of Fontaine first came into being.
So we were all Oceanids before we turned into human beings?
Siete ancora oceanidi.
That's way too much information for me. I think I'm just going to pretend that I never heard a single thing. Wait, but if that's the truth, we can't let the Hydro Archon be sentenced to death. After all, her only sin was creating us.
This really might be too much information for your regular Fontainian, but it does answer a lot of our questions.
Alas, your hypothesis regarding the third and fourth stone slates was inaccurate. The slates' respective positions are, in fact, correct.
Quindi l'ordine è quello giusto, ma allora cosa rappresentate? Se
A
corre.
key point of the visual on the third slate is how all the individuals depicted in the water are humans rather than Oceanids. They have not been dissolved, which implies that the water depicted in this slate is not water from the primordial sea. The nation of Fontaine is the nation of Hydro, as well as the nation of trials and justice. Instead of being the literal element, the water in the scene symbolizes judgment and justice. You may also recall Navia's experience. When she fell into the sea, her consciousness was surrounded by that of many others who intended to hold a trial to determine her fate. Therefore, the meaning of the third slate is that the people of Fontaine shall try the Hydro Archon at the court of justice.
Dovrà sottoporre Archon di Idra a processi davanti alla corte. Non può essere davvero.
Yes, it refers to our present situation.
I think I'm following now. So, what you're saying is, even though we decided to put on this trial to avoid fulfilling the prophecy, in truth, everything we've done has happened exactly as the prophecy foretold. So now, it seems, we're the ones making sure it comes true.
What should we do?
Sembra quasi che sia inevitabile.
Huh. No matter what, the prophecy will be fulfilled. Is this what it feels like to be a prisoner of fate?
If that's the case, does that mean the scene in the fourth slate will also be fulfilled soon?
Traveler, I would like to point out another small fallacy in your deductions. About the fourth slate, you probably thought that the eruption of primordial seawater beneath the fortress of Meripede served as the surest sign that the prophecy was about to come to pass, yes? However, I believe that rather than being a sure sign, that eruption could in fact only be a small warning of something far worse to come. As for the root cause of the catastrophe, I believe you've already encountered it once before.
Davvero? Io dovrei andare, stavo
This
continuando.
eruption is just a
Continua.
small warning of the things to come. We must find the root cause of the disaster.
Qual era la fonte della catastrofe? Maledizione.
That doesn't sound...
Non è che ho molto senso, non ho molto tempo per pensare.
It was both dream and reality.
If we're talking about a
Vedi,
true
c'è una-
cult, that could only be that thing inside the primordial sea.
The truth, the original sin, the trial, and the root cause of the disaster.
Mm. Vediamo cosa succede, poi devo andare via. Non posso lasciare il computer acceso tutta il giorno. Oh cacchio. E chi sarebbe lui, scusa? Alla balena. Quella che deve arrivare. Che non so. Aiuto. Aiuto. Questo sì che è una cosa epica oggi. A mo' di... A mo' di Nasu. Principe, guarda. Ora testa. No, è principe. È tornato lui. Ah, sta combattendo per cercare di tenerla a bada. Principe, ho capito.
That was way too close! How did that thing just burst into the Opera House? Wait, was that the huge whale you saw in your dream?
Metto che è la stessa che ha visto il principe da bambino.
So we've met it at last. I understand very well why it has chosen to make an appearance here. That whale does not belong to Tevat. It is a monster that has traversed the stars, weeping all the while. It has been greedily consuming the energy from the planet's primordial sea, using it to grow. That is the main cause for the rising sea levels. And once it has finished consuming all of the energy contained within the sea, its next step will be...
Eliminare tutti.
You said that when the Hydro Archon first created Fontanians out of Oceanids, she filled their blood vessels with primordial seawater.
Precisely. That whale finds the blood of Fontanians nigh impossible to resist.
Ah,
Therefore, when it left the primordial sea, it decided to make its next stop a packed opera house full of food. Food in the form of Fontanians.
ah.
We just barely managed to push it back, right? In that case, won't it come back to target the people again once it's managed to recover its strength?
That is correct. Indeed, it is more accurate to say that we should thank that Harbinger for buying us some time. Without him, the whale would have likely come onto land far sooner. From the way he looked, he must have been fighting the creature for quite a long time.
Uno.
That battle maniac. We've always known that he had a special connection with that whale, but we definitely didn't expect it to help us out like this. Anyway, now that we know that this whale is the actual cause of the disaster recorded in the prophecy, all we need to do to stop the prophecy would be to find a way to beat it up, right?
It is too late.
Cosa vuol dire Nevilet?
It had already absorbed too much of the primordial sea's energy before we could notice it. At this point, it has become practically integrated with the sea itself. Even if the entirety of Tevat were to be destroyed, it could still survive and swim off towards some other world.
Sì.
That's not something I will accept. We've already done everything we can, and we even found the true culprit. We've come so far. You can't just tell me that the last hurdle is some impossible foe. That's just not fair.
Indeed, that's not how a grand performance should end.
I'll fight it to the end, no matter what.
Attenzione.
So the prophecy will be
Ma guarda il
fulfilled
finale di
no
Mass
matter what,
Effect, guarda.
The prophecy. Yes,
what has been prophesied will be fulfilled. You may view such things as the history of the future.
Dopo tutto quello che è successo, comunque è andata così, combattere è impossibile. Momento. Ma se si tratta del destino.
Just as prophecies are usually only the future as seen from the perspectives of the gods, could things be happening in hidden corners where the gods' gaze does not fall?
Dobbiamo fregare gli dei?
Ultimately, fate shall serve as your only guide, no matter what will happen in Tevat's future. All you need to do is to play your part.
Ah. E se ci fosse un modo per salvare tutti nonostante il compimento della profezia? Mi sono perso qualcosa? Aspetta, mi sono dimenticato di Furino. Cos'è che voleva dirmi alla fine della cassa gigante? Qual è il vero segreto? Perché fammi qualcosa di naturale?
What's happening with the oratories?
I believe it is preparing to carry out the death sentence.
Farina!
Salva la trava, salva.
I still need answers.
Salva la fanciulla. Salva la fanciulla. Oh. Ma che cacchio? Cacchio. Non finisce più sta roba, io devo andare a lavorare, non finisce. Mi sa che devo tenere acceso il computer. Mi sa di sì. Il vestito che da dove viene, scusa? Non c'ha neanche...
You.
Sorry. That shocked expression on your face is just too amusing. I couldn't help myself.
You are not Farina. Who are you?
Ah, the sweet sound of bewilderment. Marvelous. A sure sign that my attempt to deceive everyone was a resounding success. But to answer your question, I am Focalor. You know, the god.
What?
Focalor. Why did you deceive us?
Oh, that wasn't my goal, of course. Goodness, no. But I had to fool everyone else too, if I was to stand any chance of deceiving the heavenly principles.
Yeah, I forgot.
Deceiving the heavenly principles.
It's all because of that pernicious prophecy. Dreadful, wasn't it? Everyone doomed to dissolve. Fontaine condemned to be flooded. One was not amused. In fact, one was positively bemused when that problem was thrust upon me by my dearest predecessor. That's the former Hydro Archon Egeria for the uninitiated. She knew full well that the prophecy would surely come to pass. And as one of the seven, she also knew full well that one defies the heavenly principles at one's peril. So yes, as you have no doubt surmised, it was a rather impossible situation that I found myself in. I spent a terribly long time mulling it over, alone on the ocean floor. And I was almost growing barnacles by the time I finally realized there was only one possible solution to this confounding conundrum. I had to outwit the heavenly principles, allow the prophecy to be fulfilled, ostensibly at least, while saving everyone at the same time. I'm a genius, I know. I can only assume that's why Egeria chose me as her successor. Although, looking back now, it was hardly the inheritance one dreams of. Between the task of saving the nation, the quotidian duties of the Hydro Archon, and not to mention the original sin of creating a new race of humans, I dare say she left me quite a colossal mess to clean up. But one can only play the hand one is dealt. I did not choose this, any more than I chose to be one of her Oceanid familiars.
So you were also once one of the Oceanids, transformed into a human by Egeria's hand.
Il cappello ci sta.
Yes,
Anche se non
I
è da
was.
Force.
I always dreamed of becoming human. And I still do, even now. In my eyes, to be human is to be part of the greatest opera ever known. After becoming a god, I separated my divinity from my body and spirit, leaving behind only a self that was as naive and bewildered as my past self.
Quindi
on
sono
her
la
first
stessa
days
cosa,
of
solo
being
che uno è
being.
l'anima e l'altro è il corpo.
The me you see before you now is that divinity. And the human counterpart I left behind, I named Farina. She could feel joy, sorrow, and everything in between. She could be as vain and conceited, or as meek and vulnerable. Her strengths were of a kind only a human could possess, as were her shortcomings. But in my eyes, Farina's humanity was what made her perfect. She was perfectly human in every way. The person I always wanted to be.
Quindi sono la stessa cosa, solo che si è divisa.
Anyway, so then I cursed her.
Anyway,
All part of the plan, of course. The plan to deceive the heavenly principles. Do you still remember the final scene of the prophecy? The Hydra Archon alone, weeping on her throne. In order that the prophecy might appear fulfilled, I invited Farina to be an actress, to play the part of the Hydro Archon in the prophecy. Under the curse I placed on her,
abbiamo
so
fatto pure
long as
piangere sta
I,
poveraccia.
Fosalor's divinity, continued to exist, she could not die. But nor was she free to live her life in the pursuit of happiness. Instead, she was forced to take the stage in the opera house, to embrace the role of leading lady, to forever play the part of the god from the prophecy, all to create a deceitful appearance of that prophecy coming to pass. I suppose now you probably understand why your court is called the Opera Epiclese.
But Farina is only human, isn't she? Even though she has had a long life, her mind is no stronger than that of any other ordinary human being. I cannot begin to fathom what she has had to endure. It must have been torture for her.
It has indeed. And although she is, in a sense, me in human form, I most definitely owe her an apology for it. It's been 500 years.
Madonna, 500 anni così, ma che cazzo?
And all along, she's been playing her part in the most unimaginably long, unbearably lonely, and agonizingly painful opera of all time.
Quindi adesso noi dove cavolo siamo? Entrate in contatto con la lacrima. Ricordo bene, spesso le lacrime contengono emozioni interne. Con una sensibilità idea sufficientemente forte posso creare un legame emotivo. Ammetto che questo sia il mondo interiore di Furina. Furina cosa ci fa sul palco? Aspetta un attimo, probabilmente quella non è Furina, sembra più un riflesso del suo io interiore. Riesci a parlarci, potrei trovare delle domande. E le risposte comunque siano un'occasione. Ora devo parlarci. Possiamo parlare? Allora, al momento in modalità storia principale, devo ricominciare da capo della basta! 10 minuti devo partire. Facciamo così. Il gioco in pausa. Poi continuiamo domani.
Wherever in this world
Perché
I
sono
go,
obbligato a far
I
così
carry
perché tra 10
memories of
minuti
my
devo
home.
partire. Mi dispiace, voglio sapere cosa succede, cacchio! Non è possibile. Mi sono pure messo in una posizione scomodissima per dire dai, dai. Vabbè. Niente, allora vi lascio con questo cliffhanger perché adesso poi devo prepararmi per andare a lavorare. Scusatemi, anch'io sono interessato come voi. Vi metto in una pausa che il gioco può starsene tranquillo. Perché tutto qua. Spero solo che non rompere le scatole nel mio PC. Vabbè. Boh, scusatemi, riprendiamo domani. Eh, niente, sono obbligato. Ciao ragazzi. Ciao, ciao. Ci vediamo domani. Ciao.